Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 New Canaan Old Timers Induction Honoree Ceremony. My name is Bill Brown. I am now the president of the New Canaan Old Timers. Thank you. And I guess I will tell you the story. We were having a meeting at Lenny's house, and I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I was president. So don't go if you, yeah. But this is my first honoree ceremony as the Grand Poobah, as I put for all you Flintstones fans on my name tag. But it's an honor for me to be associated with this group. We're going to say hello to the old honorees as well, but I was honored several years ago. And let me just tell you about what we try to do. We try to honor our old, I know it's old timers, and I think Katie Twombly was mad because she was the youngest old timer we ever had, but being called an old timer is not a bad thing, it's a good thing in this instance. You know, for what you have done as a former athlete and a member of New Canaan High School community, that's why we're here to honor you. And I would just like to congratulate our 2024 honorees and their families. Congratulations, it's well deserved. Before we begin with a couple of thank yous and everything, can everyone please stand? We'd like to have a moment of silence for one of our old coaches, Coach Art Brown, who passed away recently. He was a track coach at New Canaan High School. Also, all of our past honorees who have passed away in the past year, and those who we keep close in our hearts. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. And could you please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. So we're the New Canaan Old Timers, and we try to, like I said before, we try to keep alive our memories of our old players and our old athletes. And one thing that I will ask also, if we're always looking for new members of our association. If you are at all interested in becoming a member of the New Canaan Old Timers Association, please see myself or Terry or any of us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. A couple of guys I'd like to thank personally is our President and Vice President Emeritus, Len Paglialunga and Rick Erickson, for their help in this, making this possible. Thank you, fellas. I know Rick, I don't think is here, but Lenny, thank you. Thank you to, I think my best thing that I've done so far as a president is get Darcy Smith on board. And Darcy has been the one who puts all the nice pictures together and has worked on our website and has done a great job. Thank you, Darcy, for all your help. We do have some shirts over there, some NC shirts. So at the end, if you'd like, I think they're $20. You can get yourself an NC golf shirt, or I think there's a sweatshirt or something. So we'd like you to look at those if you get a chance. Thank you. Couple more quick thank yous to some of our major sponsors and our major benefactors. I believe he's here today. We would like to thank Monroe Trout for all his support. Thank you, Monroe. And also your New Canaan Eatery, Walter Stewart's, for their support for our New Canaan Old Timers. Thank you, Walter Stewart's. Okay, and so what we'll do is we'll do our ceremony here in a second with our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Terry Dinan, and then we'll have our luncheon, and that'll be it. So once again, congratulations to all of you honorees. Congratulations to our former honorees that are here, and thank you very much for being here to help us and support us. It means a great deal to all of us. And here is our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Terry Dinan.
Great, thank you so much, Bill, and welcome everyone. Wow, it really is skewing to the right, my goodness. Welcome everyone to the 40th Annual New Canaan Old Timers Association honoree ceremony, and thank you all for joining us today on another beautiful day. We're truly blessed not only to have the weather we're having, but to have this venue, the town treasure, Waveney Park. First off, I'd like to thank the New Canaan Old Timers Association Board. As Bill mentioned, Darcy Benoyer-Smith, Katie Twombly-Ryan, Scott Overbeck, Tad Keating, Matt Reddy, Lauren Saratani, and our president, the great Bill Brown. As Bill mentioned, I'd also like to thank Liza Paglialunga, Rick Erickson, and Lenny Paglialunga, who, although they stepped down from the executive board, they are still helping out behind the scenes. And in fact, when I talked to Lenny and thanked him, I said, Len, you're now president, emeritus, whatever you pronounce it, and you don't have to do it all anymore. And Lenny said he doesn't let the emeritus get in his way. He just takes a couple of aspirin and it goes away. So, thank you all for what you continue to do. I want to give a couple of shout outs to some folks who are here. First off, our first selectman, Deanna Carlson. Tom O'Day, our state representative in Hartford. The New Canaan High School athletic director, Jay Egan. And Vin Iovino, who, although he's not here, I did talk to him this morning. He's the person for whom the Old Timers Scholarship is named, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to Vinny. I also wanted to thank the Nancy Geary at the New Canaan Historical Society and the New Canaan Historical Society staff for being an unbelievable resource for a lot of the research that was done to make this possible. So thank you to the Historical Society. Lou Marinelli is here. Coach last year won his 14th state title. This year started his 43rd season as head coach, and the Rams are the #1 team in the state. They looked every bit the #1 team, and at some point this year, Coach is going to win his 400th career game, so I just wanted to give him a quick shout out. Thank you for being here, Coach. So 40 years, I was talking with Darcy a week or two ago, and I was sort of stuck on what to say, and we both thought it was appropriate that since it's our 40th year of doing this, we should quickly look back at where we were when all of this started and compare it to where we are now. And, for anybody who hasn't been in New Canaan in a while, there's certainly a lot of changes. We have a brand new library, ton of new businesses. I think 40 years ago, the two most popular stores, at least with my demographic, was Breslow's, AKA Jackson's, and Mackenzie's. There's a restaurant where Mackenzie's is, and there's another restaurant going in where Breslow's was. So definitely some changes there. There's a lot of new, shall we say, residential development, and the schools are different. They've been renovated. They've been re-renovated. I think it was about 40 years ago, maybe to this day, that they started tearing down Center School, which is now a parking lot for the aforementioned new library. But the point of all this is that, time doesn't stand still. New Canaan's forging ahead in the 21st century, but there are some things that are still the same. Those renovated schools that I mentioned are still great schools. Our town residents have a uniquely dedicated sense of pride in the community. I've never seen a place that has so many volunteers, so many people who do so much for the town. Events like Caroling at God's Acre, the Family Fourth right behind me, Memorial Day Parade, the Holiday Stroll, the Turkey Bowl for which I think, what, Coach, 6 in a row we've beaten Darien? Yes, yeah, he knows, 6 in a row. It's the best downtown, despite the changes, by far in the whole state. Another thing that hasn't changed is cell phone coverage, which is just as non-existent today as it was 40 years ago. but Deanna's working on that, so. And of course, the reason we're here, something that has not changed, or if anything has grown over time, is the impact and the importance of athletics and how it's just such a vital part of the fabric of this town. And I think when we finish the ceremony today, you'll know exactly what I mean. You notice how I casually worked in the Turkey Bowl, and did I mention 6 in a row over Darien? I think I did. It's just a part of who we are, what we do. It's why we're here today, to keep the glories of the playing fields of yesteryear alive, and in doing so, we're ensuring that there's going to be more athletic glory in the future. So with that, once again, thank you all for being here, and let's start the honoree portion of the program. You can clap, it's all right. So after many down years, New Canaan basketball has had a recent renaissance. Under the leadership of head coach Danny Melzer, the Hoops program rose from the ashes and won a state title in 2019. And they've been FCAC contenders for the best part of the last decade. The gym is again the place to be. It's constantly filled with fans, and it harkens back to an earlier era, the late 70s, the early 80s, when that same gym was 100% the place to be in New Canaan from December through March. The boys basketball team back then, year in, year out, much like today, was a consistent force to be reckoned with, not just in the FCAC, but also in the state. Under the guidance of the late great coach Don Usher, and with the play of stars like Mike Halloran, Matt Reddy, Tad Keating, Jeff Gross, and of course, the legendary Monroe Trout, the Rams won 3 straight FCAC titles from 1978 to 1980. And as anyone who saw the Rams play during that time, none of it could have happened without the contributions of our first honoree, Kevin Halloran. Kevin was raised in New Canaan after his family moved here from upstate New York when he was in the 4th grade. And as early as his time at East School and participation in the Wilkie Gilmore basketball camp, basketball insiders took a look at Kevin and his classmates and knew then and there that the future of New Canaan hoops was a bright future. After honing his skills playing middle school ball at Saks, Halloran entered New Canaan High School in the fall of 1977, embarking on an impressive athletic career over his 4 years at New Canaan High School, lettering in basketball and track under Coach Usher and Coach Bob Mosley. Kevin had great success in both sports. He was a top 10 finisher in the FCAC long jump and triple jump in his junior year, but it was on the basketball court where Halloran shined brightest. He was a point guard for his sophomore and junior seasons before becoming a shooting guard for his senior year. As a key member of those legendary House of Usher teams, Halloran was a co-captain in his senior year alongside Monroe Trout. Together, they led an outstanding roster, playing team basketball, unnerving defense, which became the signature characteristic of Rams hoopsters under Usher's tutelage. Described by his teammates as a hard-nosed player, Kevin was like a coach on the floor, constantly hustling, playing spirited ball every time he went up and down the court. He was tough, he was disciplined, and he got everything out of himself that he could and demanded nothing less from his teammates. The team that year set a program record for wins at 24 games, won the prestigious Willie Willard tournament, where Halloran was named tournament MVP, the East Haven tournament, where he was named to the all-tournament team, the CIAC regional championship, and ultimately advanced to the Class LL Boys State Championship game before losing a heartbreaker to defending champion Wilbur-Cross High School. The Rams that year lost 4 games by a total of just 7 points, and Halloran was named first team All-FCAC, averaging 15.4 points per game. Kevin and his brother Mike scored the most points by siblings behind only Monroe and Tim Trout. But as Mike mentioned to me earlier, he thinks they had more wins. You're gonna have to fact check that. Following a successful career at New Canaan High School, Kevin matriculated to Colgate University and joined the Division I varsity men's basketball team as the only freshman in the 1980-81 season. Playing in the ECAC North Division and coming off the bench at the start of the season, he would finish as a starter and was the only player on the squad to play all 28 games that year. He handed out 49 assists, good for second on the team, and shot more than 61% from the floor and 80% from the free throw stripe, and logged more court time than anyone on the team except for All-American candidate Mike Ferrara. The highlight of the year was his clutch 17-point jumper with 3 seconds left that gave Colgate a 60-58 win over Vermont. For all of this, he was named the team's most improved player in his first year. His sophomore year was even better, as Halloran led Colgate in assists, steals, and minutes played, earning team MVP honors. He set a season-high mark with 21 points against Bucknell and shot 82% from the free throw line. He also set a Colgate single-season record with 111 assists on the year. Cited by Coach Mike Griffin as the floor leader who had the ability and attitude to do the job, Kevin Halloran is to this day in the top 10 in Colgate history for assists per game, minutes per game, and free throw efficacy. Halloran graduated in 1984, earning a high honors degree in economics and another degree in marine geology. While at Colgate, he was named to Omicron Delta Epsilon, an international economics honor society, and also studied at the prestigious Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Following graduation from Colgate, Halloran received an MBA training through the University of Virginia Darden School while working in New York and Los Angeles at Bankers Trust. He held senior officer roles at 2 multinational public companies before starting 4 Point Capital Partners, LLC in 2011, where he is currently managing partner, assisting companies with capital markets transactions. He's a resident of LA with his partner, Jeanette Cha, and we're so happy to welcome him back east, back home to New Canaan. It is my sincere honor to introduce the great Kevin Halloran.
Wow, thank you. I really do appreciate that, and I sounded pretty good the way you told that story. So I'm gonna hire you, and you can come with me wherever I go. I want to thank the Old Timers Association and all of the guests here today. Your presence means everything to me, and I now feel like I'm part of a very esteemed and very exclusive club. So thank you for that. I can definitely say the room is skewed right. I'm in LA, so I'm definitely on the left. And I was a lefty as well. So I want to again thank everybody for showing up, all of my good friends, teammates. The sport of basketball is truly a ballet, it's jazz, it's rap, it's everything that you could want in a sport. And when you combine that with teammates that I had, it is one of the most remarkable experiences one can have. Being part of the New Canaan team and the formidable House of Usher, we stood for something. We worked our butts off, and we enjoyed every moment of it. So long live the House of Usher. Go Rams. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate this. Thank you.
I'll bring it over to your table.
Cool.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Kevin, we also have a state citation.
We have a little state certificate for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so each honoree,
Thank you.
thanks to Mr. O'Day, you're all going to get a state citation. The good kind of citation. Yeah, we all have. Steve Luciano first made a splash in the New Canaan Advertiser sports section as, ironically, a baseball player. He was a valued member of the Cayugas, the Flickers, the Chenangos, the Bisons, and the Twins. I think a flicker's a bird. Yeah, I think that was Cub League. Cub League was birds, I think. He also had a long and successful football career, starting off in Pop Warner and continuing through New Canaan High School, ultimately playing safety for the 1986 New Canaan team that made it to the FCAC championship game, where his recovery of a Tommy Young fumble helped the Rams score an upset win over the Cardinals, the Greenwich Cardinals, in the semifinals. Eventually, a lacrosse stick replaced his glove and bat, and got to tell you, Steve, that was a great, great career move. His lacrosse career took off at Canaan High School, where, under the tutelage of the legendary coach Howard Benedict, he quickly emerged as a generational player. A rare 4-year varsity player for the Rams, Steve played an instrumental role in securing state championships for New Canaan in 1985, 1986, and 1987. And that 1987 team is generally considered the greatest New Canaan High School boys lacrosse team of all time, winning both the FCIAC and state championship. And that stands as a testament to Steve's toughness, leadership, and skill. A first-team All-FCIAC and All-State player in both 1986 and 87, Steve's performance earned him a spot on the high school All-America roster, culminating in an appearance in the Connecticut North-South Senior All-Star Game in 1987. After graduating New Canaan High School that year, Steve attended Rutgers University, where he played 4 years of varsity lacrosse from 1988 to 1991 under legendary National Lacrosse Hall of Fame coach Tom Hayes. Steve's impact was immediate, guiding Rutgers to NCAA Division I national tournament appearances in 1990 and as captain in 1991. A 4-year starter, Steve was named Honorable Mention All-America in 1990 and 1991. His exceptional playmaking skills earned him the William Miller Trophy as the MVP of the 1991 team and the Alfred Sasser Trophy for leading Rutgers in 1989, 90, and 91. More than 3 decades after his collegiate playing career ended, Steve is still ranked 7th all-time in career points and 4th all-time in assists in the Rutgers record book. After graduating Rutgers, Steve continued to contribute to the lacrosse community, participating in the Shearson Bulls New Amsterdam Lacrosse Club and competing in summer tournaments such as the Vail Lacrosse Shootout and New England Invitational. Steve naturally and seamlessly evolved into coaching, where he shared his knowledge at Tom Hayes' summer lacrosse camps at Rutgers and assisted Howard Benedict in coaching youth camps and the New Canaan High School varsity team. In recent years, Steve dedicated his time to coaching youth lacrosse in Wilton and served on the Wilton Lacrosse Board. He even made his way back to the diamond, playing for the firm in the New Canaan Men's Softball League. So from the Flickers to the firm, full circle. This past winter, Steve achieved the ultimate honor as he was inducted into the Connecticut Lacrosse Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2024. Today, Steve resides in Wilton, Connecticut, surrounded by his family, Allison, wife Allison, son Andrew, daughter Caroline, and stepchildren Charlie and William Fisher. All 4 have followed in their father's footsteps, excelling in multiple sports at Wilton High School, helping perpetuate the formidable legacy their dad forged. Please join me in welcoming, from the New Canaan class of 1987, Hall of Famer and now Old Timer, Steve Luciano. I have your stats from the Flickers, by the way. I was going to leave those out.
That's good stuff. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Wow. Really, what an honor it is to be here today. As many of you know, I was born and raised in New Canaan, just like my dad and my brother. This town has been home for me, and it's where my love for sports began. Growing up, yes, baseball was my first passion. I played for the Cayugas. I played for people like Mr. Salert and Mr. Rucci. When I was on the Bisons and the Flickers, I played for Mr. Fred Mazzella, and I was lucky to have my dad as a coach, too. There were some great coaches in that league, and it was a lot of fun. Mr. Mellick, Mr. Curcio, Mr. Coombs, all names that are legendary in this town. Baseball was a big part of my young life, and even though I eventually moved on, I'll always cherish those practices, the games, and the camaraderie. I also have to mention, I played for the Cardinals and the incomparable Bill Brown.
So we won the
And we won a championship.
Yeah, baby. Woo! 1983, not that I don't remember.
And then there was football. New Canaan football, to be specific. I started as a third grader at South School. Yep, South School, West School, a couple of places had football teams. I was coached by a guy named Otis McClendon, who played for the Dallas Cowboys, which was pretty cool. At Pop Warner, I played for guys like Chris Kingsley, Dave Janisak, Brian Peterson, Bob Kirshner. To high school, under Lou's program. Football was nothing short of amazing. I still remember the jokes from freshman football. Dave Campbell, Hans Snyder. We still quote those to this day, even though they're not exactly suitable for this event. High school football was an unforgettable experience. We were a family, a tight-knit group of players. We gave it our all. The scheduling was a little different, so from Friday night was pasta night. Now you guys play your games, but Friday night was our pasta night and rigorous film sessions. We were always prepared. The walk from the high school locker room to Sachs Middle School, where we played, lined up in two lines, holding hands, is a memory I treasure. It was all about the team and the bond we shared. I also want to mention some incredible coaches there. Of course, Lou, Coach Z, Totola, Coach Egan, Coach Hickey. Each of them contributed to making those years really special for me. And as mentioned, you know, that game I'll never forget was the 1986 Turkey Bowl. It was a game, unfortunately, we lost, but getting there was a big deal. Back then, there was just one game on Thanksgiving, and it was the two best players in the FCAC, the two best teams in the FCAC. So along with trying to make states and making that game was quite an accomplishment. But as much as I love football, it was lacrosse that became my true path. I played in the Canaan House League and travel programs from 5th grade and on, coached by some parent legends, Mr. Towers, Mr. Eriks, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Hobbs, and many others. I remember one of my highlights was having the high school team come down to coach us. Names like Eriks and Vivian and Keener. We all wanted to be like them. Several years later, I watched Vivian and Keener both compete for a national championship. That was a lot of fun. A huge thank you goes to Howard Benedict. His coaching truly changed my life and taught me more than I can express to him here today. He gave me the confidence to move to the next level, and he taught me how to be a great teammate. To this day, I cherish our conversations and look forward to seeing him. Yeah, under Howard, we won 3 state championships in a row, and what a ride that was. And even though I've moved to Wilton and supported that program with my kids, my bond with New Canaan remains as strong as ever. In recent years, I've been battling leukemia, but I'm doing great. During this tough time, the Wilton lacrosse team showed their support by wearing stickers of my initials on their helmets. And then one night, Chip Buzzio knocked on my door in Wilton to ask if it was okay for the New Canaan Rams to wear these stickers in their game against Wilton as well. That gesture of unity truly touched me and showed me the strength of our community. I want to thank you for this honor
It means the world to me. I've had a blast catching up with many of you, and I hope to catch up with some more of you today. Thank you very much.
For you. Thank you very much. Thank you, buddy. Citation too. Yes, sir. A good one. A good citation. Thanks, Lou. Congratulations.
Appreciate it, of course. Many times when we think of student athletes, we forget the student part and put too much emphasis on the athletic part of it. But there's a big part of being a student athlete that requires drive, grit, determination, and all kinds of coordination, collaboration, time management, prioritization. And if you can learn them on the fields of play and apply them in the classroom, those are skills that prepare you for success in college and for the rest of your life. And in the late 80s at New Canaan High School, our next honoree was the gold standard of being a student athlete and set the bar for all who followed in her footsteps. Heidi Sandruder started her sports journey trying to keep up with her two older brothers, Greg and Jeff. So in the third grade, she joined her first team, the Sioux, in the New Canaan Youth Baseball League. She was the only girl on the team, possibly the only girl in the league, but she was always supported and encouraged by her coaches, Mike Hobbs and David Kearns. Heidi's time on the Sioux is probably best remembered for her pivotal RBI hit single against the formidable Iowas that gave the Sioux a 3-0 lead in an eventual 4-2 win. Great job, Heidi. She then transitioned over to softball. She went on to play for both the Dodgers and the Yankees, where she teamed up with Patty Richardson for a spectacular triple play against the Reds. Bill Brown's Reds.
Oh, terrible.
She also played on a championship intramural basketball team while at Sacs, leading Texas to an 11-5 record. But it was field hockey and lacrosse that became Heidi's passions, playing at New Canaan High School for coaches Sue Schwartle and Connie Loomis. Heidi served as captain of both the New Canaan High School field hockey and lacrosse teams her senior year. In lacrosse, she was a top scorer for the Rams, and in field hockey, she was named to All-FCIAC second team her junior year and first team her senior year. Highlights from that 1987 field hockey season: Heidi scored the only goal of a 1-0 win over Greenwich, which was New Canaan's first victory over the Cardinals since 1983. New Canaan defeated Greenwich again in the first round of the FCIAC tournament and eventually beat Darien. Again, we beat Darien for the conference championship, the first for the Rams since 1974. During her time at New Canaan High School, Heidi served as president of the National Honor Society and was selected by the New Canaan Rotary Club for her outstanding service to the community. She was honored by New Canaan's Lions Club for school service and was elected Student Coalition President for the class of 1988. Upon graduating New Canaan High School, Heidi attended Williams College, where she played both field hockey and lacrosse. She made an immediate impact as a sweeper, helping Williams to an 11-2 record her freshman year and Little East and NIAC titles. Head coach Chris Mason singled her out as, quote, a strong player and key contributor to the team. She provided aggressive, spirited play and performed consistently well under pressure throughout the season, end quote. Heidi was selected to play in the prestigious North-South field hockey game and was selected as a second team member for the Field Hockey Coaches Association in the Northeast region. After graduating from Williams in 1992, Heidi started her career at Saatchi & Saatchi. She then earned an MBA from the J.L. Kellogg Graduate School of Management at Northwestern University before starting a nearly 15-year tenure at Pepsi, where she served in several marketing roles. During that time at PepsiCo, Heidi coached lacrosse for Leo Carl for a couple of seasons, amazed at how the development program had grown for young players since her time. In 2014, Heidi became Vice President Women's Marketing for Under Armour. She and her team helped the company earn 2014 Market of the Year honors from Advertising Age for developing the I Will What I Want campaign. She is now a leadership advisor in the global consumer practice at Spencer Stewart. Based in New York, she leads the consumer products practice for Americas and is also a member of the firm's marketing and sales officer practice. Heidi is grateful to have the daily opportunity to deliver on the Spencer Stewart promise or purpose, discover and develop leadership for a better future, having learned from her time on the field with her teammates how incredible leaders, diverse teams, and inclusive environments can elevate groups and organizations. Every night, Heidi and her wife, Kate Tempesta, give thanks that they are able to raise their 5-year-old son in New Canaan. Charlie is starting kindergarten at South this year, and while they hope Charlie falls in love with the sport one day, they ultimately wish he is part of any team and learns the critical skills that will carry him far in life. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Heidi Sandruder.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, I had forgotten most of that stuff. So to relive it and travel back in time was really a treat. So thank you, Terry, for all that. And I feel like you kind of looked at my notes because there's going to be a lot of repetition, but I think it's worth it. What a pleasure and a pleasant surprise to get confirmation that I'm officially an old timer. I must admit that I was a bit confused when my friend, classmate, and board member of the Old Timers Association, Darcy Penoyer-Smith, called me and told me about this distinction because I really wasn't sure what it meant. And when she spoke about reinforcing the ideals of former AD Vin Iovino and also added the wonderful scholarship support this organization provides, I was humbled. It is very kind to be recognized by my hometown, a place that has already given me so much, and by a group that celebrates the ideals infused in sport. So thank you to the Old Timers Association, and congratulations to my fellow honorees. I bet that among this group today, I am not alone in believing that the challenges, feelings, and learnings experienced as an athlete sets the foundation for life. I am beyond grateful for the path my passion for sports has put me on for the last 40 plus years. Crazy. My wife, Kate, is also pretty sporty. And when we talk about our hopes and dreams for our 5-year-old son, Charlie, we talk about him being on a team. And if it's not on the pitch, field, or court, hopefully it's on a stage or a set, just some kind of environment where he is fortunate enough to experience and appreciate the magic that comes from being part of a group that has to work hard and together to overcome adversity and achieve a common goal. We dream that Charlie is in environments where he learns life skills like teamwork, goal setting, accountability, persistence, resilience, commitment, confidence, the value of practice, how to motivate and inspire, and that leaders set the tone and show the way. I started to learn these life skills here in New Canaan. Being an athlete and a teammate has shaped my life. A key element of my journey, as was mentioned, was the fact that I have 2 older brothers, Greg, New Canaan High School, class of 1980, and Jeff, back there, class of 83. And boy, did they love hockey. We played on our pond on Pokanock Trail, and I learned not only that my toes would eventually thaw, but also to fight for the puck like the boys. Seeing my brothers and their hockey teams made me yearn for that camaraderie. I was in 3rd grade when my mom, Sandy, took me to the YMCA to sign up for softball. And the lady behind the counter saw how excited I was, and she asked, 3rd grade? Your daughter's in 3rd grade? My mom said yes. And the woman said, softball doesn't start until 4th grade. And she saw how deflated I was. And she immediately pivoted and said, well, what about boys baseball? And I must have lit up because Mom signed me up on the spot. And that's when I joined the Sioux, coached by Mike Hobbs and David Kearns. My first teammate was Ian Hobbs, also at the table. And it was one of the highlights, wearing that bright orange bucket hats, right, and t-shirts, being on that team. I'll never forget Mr. Hobbs starting every practice. And about halfway through, Mr. Kearns whipping off his tie, coming straight from the office at Xerox, rolling up his sleeves, asking for the ball, jumping on the pitching mound in his dress shoes, and carrying on. I was the only girl, but I never felt it. Even when I made the last play of the season, and this was not mentioned, throwing to first instead of home, so the other team won, right? That feeling of letting my team down was one of the most awful things that happened to me, up until that date, of course. And Mr. Hobbs and Mr. Kearns, all they said was, "Heidi, what a great season. What a great lesson." When I became a freshman, I was fixated on playing with the best on varsity field hockey and lacrosse. I was so proud to wear my varsity skirt in school on game days. In the fall, I played for Coach Sue Schwertel, a woman of few words and controlled energy, the anti-Bobby Knight. She was judicious and effective, and we all wanted to make her proud. In the spring, I played for Coach Loomis, who never played lacrosse, but when a coach was needed for the girls' team, she stepped up with commitment, drive, and optimism. And there were such fun days. I smile thinking about my amazing teammates like Becky Castle, Allison Gillespie, Kelly Franco, Mary Cirucci, Marilee Mellick, and Suzanne Jennings Harrison, to name just a few. I also remember the long shadows of fall practices, team dinners watching Hoosiers, cassette mixes for long bus rides, banquets in the cafeteria, spirit runs, and beating Darien. I loved being a student athlete at New Canaan High School. It was my identity. And it drove my decision to go to Williams College, a place where I could play 2 sports, commit to the classroom, and be only 3 hours from home. My mom drove many a time there and back in a day to see me play, bringing 6-foot subs and chocolatey treats. Thank you, Mom, for always cheering me on then and now. And when it was time to start thinking about life after Williams, I was interested in advertising and sports broadcasting, because there was this little station just getting traction called ESPN. And I was seeking advice on which path to pursue. So I reached out to a Williams alum, Mr. White, who was an SVP at CBS Sports. He was also the brother of Dick White, a longtime New Canaan resident, and the son of my favorite resident at the New Canaan Inn, where I worked for a couple of years. And during our conversation, Mr. White asked what I liked about my experience at Williams. And I talked about my teammates and my coaches and the games and the wins and the losses, and maybe a little bit about class. And he said, "Go into advertising." For the last 30 years, I've gravitated toward professions that require teamwork to be successful. I've been an account person in advertising, a marketer at Pepsi and Under Armour, a leadership advisor in executive search, and it's no mistake that my daily life mimics my early days on teams here in New Canaan. And at a recent meeting, a colleague reminded us of the quote, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." And that kind of sums it all up. Thank you again to the Old Timers. This has been a delight.
Congratulations, kid. You're the best kid. Here you go. That's for you, sweetheart. Thank you.
So, track and field, it's a very unique sport. It's one in which, if you look at the records, it's in most cases a snapshot in time. You know, records are made to be broken, especially in track, maybe similar only to swimming. But if you get a chance, next time you're in New Canaan High School, look at the records for track and field that are posted in the gym lobby. And you're going to see the top 2 lines, the 100 and 200 meter dash. Those records were set all the way back in 1989, and those records still stand to this day, and they belong to our next honoree, Dan Goldblatt. Dan grew up in a family that made sports a way of life. He and his brothers constantly challenged each other with homemade competition in the basement or the backyard, driving one another and pushing each other to be the best they could be. Dan started playing soccer competitively at the age of 5, following in his brother David's footsteps, And after moving to New Canaan from New Jersey in 1980, when he was 10, he immediately jumped into the town's rec and travel soccer programs. Dan's father began coaching the team a couple years later, and the team accomplished great things at the regional level, where Dan learned at an early age what it meant to be part of a team, as this was one in which everyone contributed. In fact, one of Dan's best memories is how much he enjoyed assisting on goals for his good friend Dirk Hart. As Dan's soccer career continued to evolve, it was clear that the distinguishing feature of his soccer capabilities was his speed. This was not a shocker, as his father was a standout track and field competitor in his day and continued to compete in road races and top the age group leaderboards even to this day. So naturally, Dan was drawn to track, and he began to compete in AAU and local summer meets. He began to excel and quickly fell in love with the energy of sprinting. And as he entered high school, his brother David was already captain of the track and soccer teams, so the transition was an easy one to make. While playing soccer for the Rams, Dan was part of a unit that had tremendous success, and he started for the team, earning honors at the county, state, and regional level. He played in the Senior Bowl to culminate his high school career. Some of his fondest memories of his time in soccer revolve around the class act, the legendary Coach Bill Murphy. In track, Dan ran for another New Canaan coaching legend, Bob Mosley. He made an immediate impact. In the time that he ran for New Canaan, he won countless county, state, and New England titles. He set state and New England records and earned All-American honors along the way. It was an amazing time to be part of New Canaan track. Members of New Canaan High School teams during his time there competed for Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, Penn, Claremont McKenna, Temple, and Susquehanna, just to name a few. And as Dan acknowledged, anyone in FCAC and Connecticut running circles knows that none of that would have been possible without the tireless efforts of Jim Gerwick, who has joined us today. He was a 2018 New Canaan Old Timers honoree and the orchestrator of meets and races throughout Fairfield County. Now understand that track, it was not like football, was not the most popular spectator sport. Another change, if you look at the track, they've actually fixed it, flipped it, and made it a stadium. But back in the day, we didn't have seats. But when Dan was running against the likes, especially of his arch rival, Marvin Fitchett of Norwalk, it was a must-see event. To watch Dan run, I can't put it in words, it was just truly spectacular. The excitement, it was contagious, the build-up to watch the 4x100 with Dan, Chuck Stackhouse, Ainsley Crawford, and Jamie Moore. That was the track version of watching another Fab Four, the Beatles. You know, it was just something you couldn't miss. Personally speaking, Dan was a fun teammate to have and to compete with, and against him was simultaneously futile and an honor. I remember watching Dan destroy our top indoor quarter miler, Tom Pearl, in the New Canaan High School gym one morning when he was running in boat shoes and a button-down shirt. I also remember, probably the worst idea I ever had, racing him in the 200-yard dash at a practice one time. I maybe had a 50-meter head start. Dan, of course, caught up to me, slowed down just long enough for me to hear him give a little laugh, and proceeded to beat me by about 20 yards. And that was pretty fast back then. But we loved having Dan be our leader. Bus rides home, I'll leave most of it out, but they were almost as fun watching him compete. If you were to ask Dan what he cherishes more than any record or victory, it was a time he spent with his mom, who was there every step of the way to drive, cheer, and support. Dan was heavily recruited and chose Brown University, where he was fortunate to be able to participate in both soccer and track. It was at Brown where he quickly replicated his success at New Canaan. He won the New England and Ivy level league and set several records for the Bears. Throughout all of his success, the thing Dan treasures the most are his coaches, his teammates, and the life lessons he learned throughout. His proudest accomplishment is his family, with whom he currently resides in Florida, just 10 minutes from mom and dad. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating my old friend and teammate, fastest guy I know, Dan Goldblatt.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Darcy. Thanks, Mr. Brown. Thank you, everybody who contributed to making this day happen. It's so nice to be back in New Canaan. It's been quite a while, and I'm so honored to be standing up here with these superstars. I feel humbled that I have been included with such an incredible group of people. Ever since I can remember, sports was part of my life. I remember at the age of 5 or 6, climbing into the back of my dad's car to go run some race in some part of New Jersey. I remember also at 5 or 6, climbing in the back of my mom's wooden paneled station wagon, eagerly headed to some soccer practice. Sports wasn't just part of our family life, it was our family life. And as I look back at it, I'm absolutely sure I wouldn't have had it any other way. Sports created magical journeys, developed wonderful relationships, and brought us together as a family. The music we listened to on the rides to games and practices, and the conversations we had on the rides home are etched in my being and cemented my path forward. And then you throw New Canaan into the mix. Being an athlete in New Canaan contains all the ingredients to build someone who can be successful in life. And my mother and father never missed the opportunities to provide clarity on what those ingredients were and how best to trickle them into who I could become. I remember my father saying to me, "Losing with grace, but learning from it." I remember my mom hugging me and saying, "Shake hands and remember to treat them kindly." And more than anything, I remember dissecting the negatives and the positives of each game, day at school, or even a session at Walter Schock, trying to figure out how to highlight or minimize where appropriate. To be sure, I was a lot as a kid. I loved to color outside the lines, and my mom chalked it up to creativity and steered all that unspent energy towards sports, and that formed me. Sports with the right parents is a team. I learned how to win with class, which, to be honest, took a little bit of time. I learned how to lose with grace, which also took a little bit of time. What is the next race, the next game, the next challenge? Understanding how to lead and how to follow. Understanding how to be part of a team means highlighting the team's needs first. I learned at some point, talent only gets you so far. The difference comes in the work you put in. I could go on for hours on the lessons that it all taught me, but I think the one that resonates the most with me and is in my muscle memory and I have relied on over the course of time can be summarized with a quote by the poet laureate Rocky Balboa. Life hits hard, and it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. As I reflect on being an athlete in New Canaan, I remember the races and the games. They were wonderful most of the time. I remember my teammates with such fondness, from Dirk Hart to Greg Vanarek, from Tom Fine to Dom Fernandez, from Ansley Crawford to Chuck Stackhouse. They all have such an important place in my learnings. Two people I remember frequently and miss very much are Coach Bill Murphy and Bob Mosley. The two of them were such quiet leaders, such gentle yet effective influencers, so willing to give of themselves with just the hope of making you better along the way. The truest form of coach and teacher, and I was blessed enough to have them both in my life. But most of all, I remember the car rides with my mom and dad, listening to Jim Croce 8-tracks, and then Kenny Rogers cassettes, and finally Bruce Springsteen CDs. I remember their support, looking up into the stands in New Britain and seeing my mom sitting by herself just made me know that I could. Looking over at my dad at the soccer game and knowing through his eyes exactly what to do and the confidence that it gave me They are here today like they have always been, and just seeing them gives me joy. And more than anything, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making me me. Thank you for supporting me, even when I made it hard. Thank you for loving me. You taught me how to parent and how selfless the job is, and I hope I was able to do half as good a job bringing up my kids as you did with yours. You told me I could soar, and I believed you. Thank you, everybody.
Well done. There you go.
Born in Dayton, Ohio, in 1977, Brett Wilderman was 5 when the family moved to Chesterfield, Missouri, suburb of St. Louis, and it was there that he began his long and successful sports journey. Brett has exposure to organized baseball, football, and wrestling. He played catcher and first base and was the leading hitter on the team. His dad introduced his son to the sport of wrestling, even installing a practice mat in the basement. Brett's interest in wrestling prompted an investigation into how to give him an opportunity to wrestle with other boys. He started to wrestle for the Bonhomme wrestling team in St. Louis as a 5th grader, and with the help of the team's coaches, one of which was his dad, he picked up the sport quickly, winning a Missouri state championship before the family moved to New Canaan in 1990. I was talking with Vin Iovino this morning, and he said, as fortuitous as it may have been for the Wilderman family to be in New Canaan, it was even more fortuitous for New Canaan to have the Wildermans. John and Lori quickly became important parts of the athletic community. Serving as presidents of the New Canaan Sports Council, they helped plant the seeds for the New Canaan High School Athletic Hall of Fame and were instrumental in the development and building of Dunning Field. And of course, we now had the Wilderman boys in the pipeline. Once in New Canaan, Brett expanded his sports interest to basketball and played on the Sachs Middle School team. He wanted to play football, but was too big to play Pop Warner, so he had to wait. Brett and younger brother Brian became mainstays of the newly formed New Canaan Wrestling Club, contributing to win more than 150 victories over 3 seasons. He also continued to play baseball, starring on the 14-year-old junior Babe Ruth team, but his time playing baseball was about to come to an end as a new sport loomed on the horizon. Entering New Canaan High School in 1992, Brett played freshman football and, of course, wrestling, which unfortunately forced him to pass up basketball, much to the disappointment of Coach Usher, who certainly could have used an athletic 6'4", 200-pound guy somewhere. Enrolling at New Canaan High School gave Brett an opportunity to pursue that completely new sport that, had he stayed in St. Louis, he never would have found it, and that was lacrosse. So Brett turned up for tryouts his freshman year and quickly found out he was 3 years behind everybody else. He would soon catch up. Football worked out very well for Brett. Playing for Coach Marinelli, he was a 3-year, 2-way varsity player as an offensive guard and defensive end, where he was first-team All-State, All-FCIAC, and team captain as a senior. He played and started for the legendary 1993 state championship team. With his early wrestling start in St. Louis and continued participation in the New Canaan Wrestling Club, he hit the ground running when he got to compete on the high school level under Coach Paul Gallo. He was a 3-time finalist and 2-time champion in the FCIAC and Connecticut state wrestling tournaments. He was also a 2-time finalist and 1-time winner of the State Open, as well as a 1-time winner of the New England Championship Tournament. During the last half of his senior wrestling season in 1995, Brett would travel to the New York Athletic Club to compete against the best wrestlers in the area. A week before the FCIAC tournament, while training at the NYAC, he sustained a compound dislocation of his finger and appeared likely that his season was over. His doctor said that to be able to wrestle in the FCIAC championship, he'd have to wear a soft cast over his hand, which in wrestling would render his entire arm useless. Athletic trainer Diane Murphy also had to fashion a large cushion over the cast so that he would be allowed to compete. On the first day of competition, as Brett walked onto the gym floor, where there were a lot of turning heads in the crowd wondering if he'd be able to compete with one arm, ultimately he was able to overcome the disadvantage and the pain and won the tournament at 189 pounds in dramatic fashion. Vin Iovino, who again I spoke with today, still considers that to be the most impressive display of skill, toughness, and will to win in all of his years as New Canaan Athletic Director. The 12-team coaches voted unanimously to award Brett the most outstanding wrestler of the tournament. Still injured, throughout the state, Connecticut Open and New England tournament, he captured first, second, and fourth places respectively, and now had 3 weeks to recover for nationals. Physically improved, but facing the best in the country, he was in for the test of his life. Over 2 days, he defeated the state champions from Kentucky, Idaho, Ohio, and Kansas, good for fourth place, one of only 5 Connecticut wrestlers at the time to ever place in the top 8 at that tournament. Brett ended up with a record of 128-16, team captain, and a winning streak of 71 matches. For Howard Benedict's lacrosse team at New Canaan High School, Brett was a 2-year starter at defenseman and a face-off specialist. His senior year team finishes runner-up to Wilton in both the FCIAC and state championship games. After the senior sports season was over, Brett received New Canaan High School's top athletic recognition, the Sikorsky Athletic Award. After high school, Brett attended Cornell, where he was a member of both the varsity football and lacrosse teams. He was captain of the lacrosse team his senior year, where as a defenseman, he was cited by Big Red head coach Dave Pietramala as a quiet leader who worked his way from the scout team to become a solid contributor and role model for the younger players. Anyone who knows Brett, a teammate, opponent, fan, or friend, will tell you he's a dedicated, great teammate, humble, tough, and has an intense refuse-to-lose attitude. As a parent, Brett has coached New Canaan youth sports for football, wrestling, and lacrosse. Although physically active themselves, Brett and his wife, Andrea, spend their free time watching and supporting his son, Cale, who's a third-generation wrestler, and daughter, Mally, in their sports. All 4 of the family members show their inter-family competitive skills as they often compete together on the pickleball court. It is my sincere honor and pleasure to introduce my friend, Brett Wilderman.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you.
Want to thank the Old Timers Association for this great honor. Congratulate my fellow honorees. Very impressive. Great to hear your backstories. It makes me proud to be associated with you at this honor. I want to kind of give a couple, I guess, anecdotes or little snippets from my athletic career that kind of had impacts on me. There's many, and I could be up here all day, but kind of 3 stand out to me, each sport I participated in, which had its individual impact of who I am and how I developed as an athlete and as a person. First, wrestling, that was, kind of my first sport growing up. It's what I knew most comfortably coming into New Canaan High School. And Coach Gallo was there. I was fortunate, across all 3 sports, really to be coached by legendary coaches, Paul Gallo, Lou Marinelli, Howard Benedict. I was really blessed and fortunate to be at New Canaan at that time, to really, excel under the tutelage of such great leaders. Also, a lot of assistant coaches, which are here today, Bill Brown, Jay Egan, had huge impacts on my life. But under Coach Gallo, he was not only my coach, but also my training partner. And he would push me further than I wanted to go in the wrestling room, and he was extremely irritating at points because he was relentless and took, I think, pleasure kind of rubbing my face in the mat. But that's exactly what I needed. Coach Gallo helped develop me as a coach, but also, again, as a training partner. And without him there willing to do that, I wouldn't have been the wrestler that I eventually became. Coach Marinelli, I remember many stories, but one that stood out after my freshman and sophomore year, I was running back, and I cherished being a running back because I got to carry the ball, I got to score touchdowns, and I got to be the star. But he told me, kind of coming out of my sophomore year, we're going to make a little position change for you. You're going to be now an offensive lineman. And that was a little bit of a shock. I tried to, take it as a good sport. Hopefully I didn't come across too upset, but inside I was dying because I wanted to be a running back. I, saw what Scott Overbeck did, and I dreamed of following his footsteps. But switching to offensive line, I got to play under Coach Egan, and it was one of my best team experiences of my entire career, as we became a very strong offensive line unit. We blocked for Chris Silvestri. Chris got, all the glory, and we were happy to have him have it because he reflected back on us and really shared that glory with us. And as a unit that went out on the field each time, got better each time, grew as a team because we knew each of us had our own assignments down, and we could rely on each of us to do those jobs. And once that confidence was there, and then we held the responsibility of executing our own assignments, the team took off. I think it was a real magical year, and I was very blessed to be part of that team. In lacrosse, Coach Benedict, he's a unique guy, a special guy. He had big impacts on who I am as a person. And one story, that I tell early on, as I'm kind of growing up in the program, and to further upon what Terry said, when I moved to New Canaan, I didn't know what lacrosse was. My friends said, "Oh, I play lacrosse." And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." And they said, "Oh, it's a basket and a ball, and you throw it and you catch it." And I was picturing a highlight. And when I finally saw the game, I was very surprised, but it was an exciting game, and I wanted to be part of it. So I joined the team, not knowing where it was going to lead, but kind of growing up to the program. And Coach Benedict saw, something in me to say, "Hey, why don't you play defense?" And he took me the summer between my sophomore and junior year to a camp down in Maryland. Made the effort to really start to, get me up to speed so that I could be a starter on the team my junior year. But I remember early on when I wanted to impress him, we were watching Wilton. We were in the stands, and I heard him early on in the game talk about how proficient the Wilton defenders were with their stick skills. And I thought about that. And then after the game, Coach Benedict asked me, he's like, "Well, what did you see? What did you see out there?" And I said, "Well, I thought they had good stick skills." And he looked at me and looked through my soul and said, "Don't tell me what I just want to effing hear. Tell me what you think." And he called me out on that, and I'll never forget that moment, because he called me, called me dead to rights, and really taught me to say what I really feel, even if I don't think it's a popular opinion. So, and with that being said, I kind of reflected for today on my career and what it meant and what this ceremony meant, and kind of a messaging, or kind of trying to synthesize everything that I've gone through. And I think looking back, in the moment, I thought I was just kind of a member of the team and playing a sport. Now I realize, these experiences have painted who I am, and it's part of my life story. So, I am the person I am today because of New Canaan High School, because of the coaches' impact on me. And again, I'm so fortunate and thankful that I could be a part of it. And thank you for being here today to share with me.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Our last honoree is one of the most unforgettable, inspirational athletes to ever walk the halls of New Canaan High School. Brian Wilderman was as gritty and tough an athlete that any of us ever saw. He had an unparalleled work ethic, discipline, and possessed the ability to get every last drop of talent out of his body and his teammates. Born in 1978, also in Dayton, started his pursuit of athletics when he joined that same wrestling club in St. Louis that his brother did. They had more than 150 wrestlers, and he was one of 5. It actually was one of 5 similar-sized clubs in the St. Louis area. His introduction to competitive wrestling started him in the right direction. The family moved to New Canaan in 1990 when Brian was halfway through 5th grade. He attended South and Sachs Middle School before entering New Canaan High School. In 1992, Brian's dad started the New Canaan Wrestling Club to provide a feeder system to the high school team, and Brian flourished in the sport. Among his many youth successes, he won 4 straight championships at the very competitive annual Danbury Youth Tournament. Carrying over well with his wrestling, Brian also participated in youth football. Again, a lot of carryover value between those two sports. Took his sports very seriously, combining dedication to hard work, physical strength beyond his years, and a fierce competitive attitude, and all those other aspects that made him, by all accounts, a great teammate. His accomplishments on the mat are legendary in New Canaan and in the history of Connecticut wrestling. He was an FCAC finalist all 4 years, winning the crown his junior and senior year. He earned 3 state championships. He won the Connecticut Open, and he was on the podium for 3 occasions at the New England tournament. Although he never claimed a New England title because injuries always seemed to catch up with him at the end of the season, he did record 4 victories over New England tournament champions. He ended his high school career with 138 wins versus 16 losses, 22 tournament championships, a dual meet record of 71-1, having never lost a home dual match meet. Brian was a hard-nosed, hard-charging physical football player who always played to win. His performance in practices and games were an inspiration to his teammates. Playing linebacker and nose guard was natural for him. Recognition came his way in being named to the All-FCAC and All-State team his senior year, as well as being selected by his teammates as co-captain in 1997. That same year, he won the prestigious Sikorsky Memorial Award, but his greatest legacy is his connection to teammates, coaches, and fans. The intense competitor on the field was balanced by his gentle and caring manner for all who knew him. The FCAC wrestling coaches, who had such great respect for him as an athlete, named him the outstanding wrestler given annually to a county tournament participant in his name. His football teammates lobbied the New Canaan High School Athletic Department to designate the first home game each year to honor his memory. The Brian Wilderman Memorial Game will be played this year on Friday, September 27th. Upon his passing, hundreds and hundreds of notes of condolences were written. Most of them included a remembrance of Brian or some encounter that had stuck with them, whether it was a woman struggling with something in her trunk, classmate learning a manual shift car, someone who was bullied, or a teammate that had met some level of disappointment. Brian always had your back. Brian is sorely missed, and it is fitting to honor his memory. Friends, family, and teammates could probably tell Brian Wilderman stories for hours, and those hours would bring smiles, laughter, and tears. Ensuring his memory is the Brian Wilderman plaque that hangs on the wall at the entrance to the wrestling room at the high school to this day. It reads, Brian P. Wilderman, 1978 to 2000. Many have embraced the rigors of practice and the spirit of competition, but few have done so with such devotion, determination, style, and grace. Fewer still have elicited such admiration and respect from teammates and foes alike. For those who knew Brian, we remember. For those who follow, be reminded that your efforts in this room honor his memory. Here to accept on the behalf of our 2024 Lauren J. Keyes Memorial honoree, Brian Wilderman, is his brother, Brett Wilderman.
Well, it's an honor to be here to accept this award and recognition on behalf of my brother, although I wish he was here instead of me. But things like this keep Brian's memory alive, and we're so appreciative of it as a family. It's been almost 25 years since his passing, and events like this, really centered around New Canaan High School, the football game, keep Brian's memory alive, and you know, as his family, we are so appreciative of that. Brian was a great teammate. It's brought up time and time again. Not only a great teammate on the field, but a great teammate in the classroom. Out in the street, anywhere. Brian had your back. He was fearless and loyal, more than almost anybody I've ever met. So, and Brian was also a wild child. He was truly fearless. If there was a platform that everybody was climbing up to do a rope swing, that they were scared to get up there, Brian would get up there and then he would climb up to the next branch above it, because that's just what he did. We miss him. I wish he was here. I love you, Brian, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the honoree portion of today. Lunch, as I understand it, is being served right in Waveney House, so grab a plate, grab some food, and most of all, celebrate being part of this day, being part of this amazing community. Thank you all for coming. We hope to see you all again next year. Thank you.